I'm Ian Livingstone. I'm a composer for video games, television and film. Yes, I do. Piano is my main instrument. I started lessons when I was 5 years old. Did all my grades as a kid, and also played a bit of violin. Not particularly well though, to be honest. Not well enough to record. And drums as well. So generally, I start at the piano. I find technology, amazing as it is, I love my synths, I love my computers, but it's really distracting, and sometimes you just really need to focus. So I go into a different room, which is quite dark, and I'll just sit at the piano and see what happens. And I can be playing for hours. Sometimes nothing will come, and you just have to put it down to one of those days. Um, Often, what I do find though is the very first thing that I play is the best idea. Sometimes I can be playing for a couple of hours, and then I'll listen back to all of the things I've done, and the very first thing that I came up with is the strongest idea. Don't know why that happens. I don't know if that happens to other composers or not, but it just seems to be the way it happens for me. John Williams was a huge influence on me. Star Wars, Close Encounters, E.T., loved all those scores. And then I kind of got into playing with bands as a teenager. It was just, that was kind of the cooler thing to do. And I toured with a couple of bands as a session musician, and then went back to uni to study popular music and sound recording. I wanted to be a sound engineer working in studios. And part of the course was composition, and I'd just been to see Edward Scissorhands, which the score by Danny Elfman just totally blew my mind. It was just, all those choirs and the Celeste melodies and stuff. It was just absolutely loved it. And that's kind of what got me going, really. It was just my inspiration. And then finished my degree, and then purely by chance, I was just in the right place at the right time. I sold a keyboard to a guy whose family were setting up a video games company in Manchester, and that they turned out to be quite a big player in the industry. Gave me my first couple of gigs, and it all just led from there, really. I used to use pen and paper. Had my first composition performed when I was 8 in school. Wasn't very good. I've still got it actually in a frame in the kitchen. But no, these days I embrace the technology. I use Cubase while I'm writing. But you've just got to be conscious all the time that copy and paste is your worst enemy, because it's it's so tempting, when you come to repeat a section, just to literally repeat the whole thing. Whereas traditionally, when you were using pen and paper, you'd have to write it all out again. So you would do something different. You'd vary the orchestration, the melody, the harmony. So yeah, you've just got to be conscious of that. I find these days clients want to be able to hear a mock-up of how something's going to sound before you record it with a live orchestra. So generally all the parts, as I'm working on, say, a string section, I'll write each line separately: violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello, contrabass, and the same for brass and wind. So all of the lines are generally written and orchestrated as I'm composing. But then when we come to record, it's a massive job then taking all of that and doing all of the expression, dynamic markings, phrase markings and things. So I use an absolutely amazing orchestrator called Michael Doherty, and he basically takes my data. He'll sometimes change textures and colours. If he sees a clash in something that I've done, he'll sort it out, and he just makes it all look good on the page. So it's just a massive time saver, really. No, I'm not a conductor. I leave that up to the specialists. I use a guy, Jeff at Magian, does a lot of my conducting for me. He's absolutely fantastic. I just find that for me, on the day when you've got the pressure of delivering a score to your clients, I'm just not a great multitasker. You know, if I was in the room with the players, I just don't think I'd be able to focus on what's the best possible recording, you know. So I just prefer to sit in the recording studio and just really focus and listen to what I'm hearing. And I'll chat to the conductor over the mic, and you know, we'll discuss things and stuff. But no, I'm quite jealous actually of composers that do conduct their own scores, and it looks great as well. You know, it's a great showman thing, but for me, just not my bag. I've only been lucky enough for that to happen once actually in my career. I worked on a movie called The Kingmaker, which was set in Thailand, and as well as the orchestral score, we also needed some diegetic, authentic Thai music. So the producer flew me to Bangkok for a week. We booked a studio, we booked a load of session musicians, and they improvised on my score, and it was a really good experience. But no, most of the time, like I did a video game set in China last year, and obviously with COVID, you know, you can't really, I can't just fly to China. So I sourced the musicians. I found an Erhu player and a Gucheng player, which is like a Chinese zither. And most musicians these days have got their own recording facilities of some type. So it worked out amazingly well. You know, I sent them the score, sent them the backing track, and they recorded it and sent it back to me the next day. And obviously I had a little bit of a chat on Zoom just to make sure we're on the same page. It's not quite as good as being there in the room with the musicians, but it's a close second. And then the same, I just worked on two projects, both set in Mexico, separate projects. Book of Love, a rom-com, and Forza Horizon 5, which is a video game. And again, found the musicians. We recorded a variety of Mexican players, mariachi, trumpet and things. And it worked really well. I'd say my favourite era is the Romantic era. My dad used to play when I was little. Schumann, Brahms, Beethoven, and Rachmaninoff, huge Rachmaninoff fan. All the Russian greats, Tchaikovsky, Mussorgsky. Film music wise, Bernard Herrmann, John Williams, Ennio Morricone, his Mission score, absolutely love. Thomas Newman, I'd say more recently, Thomas Bergerson, he writes a lot of trailer music, and John Powell, absolutely loved his scores to the How to Train Your Dragon series. I've just finished on a rom-com called Book of Love, which is starring Sam Clocklin. That's out on Valentine's Day next year. Also just scored my first horror movie, which was a lot of fun, called Jeepers Creepers Reborn. That's fourth in the Jeepers Creepers series. Again, that's out next year. And I'm just starting up on a gangster movie called The Last Heist, which was incredibly violent. Video games, I've got a few in progress. I've just finished work on Forza Horizon 5, which is out in November.